everyone, Ashby at Positivity Peddler. I wanted to make a DIY for a silicone resin casting mold. This is my first time trying, so I wanted to try a couple different ways and see how it works. If there's any difference in texture, resiliency, detail transfer, etc. I thought I'd show you all too. If you have any questions about where any of the supplies were purchased, just comment below. And as always, like and subscribe so you can see the next video. Thank you. So I've got cornstarch and silicone and soap and water and silicone. Those are the two different ways that we're going to try today. I wanted to point out a couple of things. With the silicone, it has to be silicone 1. I don't know if you can see that on there. And it has to be 100% silicone. It has to be silicone 1, something to do with the ingredients in it, or the chemicals. It won't work if it's silicone 2. And I wanted to show you guys how to glow the caulk gun if you needed to know. I just got this real cheap at the store. If you notice, this won't pull unless you push this in. And then you can pull that out. That way it's ready. And then to open the caulking, you have to cut off the tip. I legit had to use a saw to do it. I tried to use these scissors. This was not working. So once you've got that off, there's another seal down in here that you also have to remove. And that just takes a screwdriver or anything sharp. You don't even need a hammer, you can just poke it in there. We got that done. Go ahead and load that in there, like that. And then once you start squeezing this, it'll come out. So one of the reasons that I wanted to make this video is because I do resin casting as well. And I've got a few different molds. One of the first ones that I started out with was one of these kind, just kind of cheap, made out of plastic. It's not made out of silicone. And it was really hard to get the pieces of jewelry out once I had casted it. You have to have a special spray, a release spray, which costs extra. And I don't like the way it smells. And it just was really messy. So I was trying to figure out a different way. And I found out about silicone resin molds. With the silicone resin molds, they're flexible and the pieces just come right out. So I knew that was the way to go. But I wanted to have a custom mold for different things. So when I looked it up online to find out how to make it, like I said, I found a couple different ways. And I wanted to see which way is the best. So we're going to start with the cornstarch. Now some things that you're going to need, of course, something to mix with and some gloves. You don't want to get this stuff all over your skin. And with both of these, I want to use a food coloring so that we can try to tell the difference between which one's which later. With the cornstarch, I'm going to use a blue. You can use whatever one you want, of course. Put some in there. And then Just as a side note, this stuff doesn't smell very good, so if you have a mask of some sort, most people do right now, go ahead and put that on. Make sure that you're in a well-ventilated area so you're not breathing this in. So go ahead. I'm making just small molds right now. Like I said, I'm just testing it out. I've got a few items here, doubles of each of them, so that we can try it with both kinds of molds. So I'm just going to do a couple squeezes. You have to squeeze pretty hard. So 2 is probably good for that first one. Let's see how that mixes up. There. Under that. Now, let's mix this up. Like I said, this is the first time that I've ever done this, so if you have any comments or anything like that, or ways that I can do things different, go ahead and put them down below, and I always appreciate the feedback. Now this, I don't know if this is the right way to have done it, because it doesn't look like it's going to set up very well. Maybe it's supposed to be like that. Let's try kneading it a little bit more. Put it all together. A little more cornstarch so it doesn't stick everywhere. These gloves come in handy. Plenty of cornstarch. So it doesn't look like it's setting up really well that way. And I don't know if it's because I put it right in the cornstarch. So let's try something else. Alright, we're back with a new pair of gloves and a new plan. So I think that I'm going to try mixing this separately in a bowl first. So let's do this. I'm going to leave that other part in the video too, because that way, in case anybody makes the same mistake, it'll save them some time. So 1 minute. Now we'll put the food coloring in with this. You can put a fair amount in. It's just, the more you put in, it's going to be dark. So it depends on how light you want it. For those people that like the color swirly. Gotta kind of get it in a little bundle there. Because what we're gonna do is scoop it out into the cornstarch. Try to get as much as we can into the glob. You want to make sure that you're using a disposable cup. This stuff really sticks. Cover it with cornstarch. This in here. You want to squeeze it all together because when you knead it is how it's going to turn into the mold. And if you need more cornstarch, go ahead and just put more. It's going to have a pretty blue color. Just keep kneading it. You gotta be patient with it. Stickiness of this stuff reminds me of when my kids went through that slime phase, making slime with everything. Just make sure you got lots of the cornstarch so it's not sticky. Oh, I got cornstarch everywhere. This stuff is messy. So we're getting there. Notice it's not really sticking to my gloves as much anymore. That's just the old stuff. A little bit more. Alright. Because I think we're getting close. Stuff is not easier to do it in the cornstarch. I think it is. Maybe that's what I should have been doing all along. These videos are good to watch. Save you the time. I think I got plenty of cornstarch on it now. Let's get these spread out and put the items into the mold. First, let's that one's cornstarch anyway. So let's do. We only got about 10 minutes or so to get this done. I'm going to put a bigger amount right there on that one because that's a seashell, so it's bigger. This one there. You can tell that it's kind of hard to come apart now. That one there. There. And I labeled them all with C for cornstarch. I put it front ways for me, and then I put the letter backwards for you guys, since I know it comes across. Got a new set of gloves. Alright guys, back to it. I got this mess cleaned up a little bit. Let's get these pressed into there. We want to do it before it gets too hard to take the indentation. And try to make sure that you've got it in there so that it's deep enough to hold the resin, but not so deep that the bottom is too shallow. That's important. I want to see, I'm interested to see how it keeps the details for these things. This one, it doesn't have much detail on it, but I'm interested in the depth of it because I like to do dried flower jewelry, and I think that this shape will hold the dried flowers well. Got that one pressed in there. Should have got enough in there for it. Cover it up fully without any air bubbles. Now it seems like it's starting to cure pretty quickly. So that's interesting. With the cornstarch. This key, it has some pretty small detail work. That's why I wanted to try this one. I wanted to see if it'll pick that detail up. I'm going to press it in there pretty well. Make sure that the edges are up around it. Because remember, we're pouring resin into these. Can't have it losing its shape. This one, I have two different size rocks, but they're both rocks that I would be able to make some type of wire jewelry with. So I figured I'd try it because I like the shape of these ones. Now with this last one, because I waited a few minutes too long, I think, it's a little bit harder to get it to mold up around it. You can tell that it's starting to set up. It still is working. And I would say the time elapsed here fully between when I first got this done and now is about 3, maybe 4 minutes. So you don't have too much time. I thought it'd be about 10, but not really. So we've got those ones done. Now we're going to set up the water. With the water, you have to put plenty of soap in. I use Dawn soap. It seems to be the best for me. But I think that any soap would work. I use Dawn for other things, pretty much anything. I'm not sure how much soap to put in there, but I know that it's got to be a good amount. We'll start with that. And you can really see the soap in the water. I have orange colored soap, so it makes it a little easier. Then let's squirt some of this caulking in here. Oh, that looks cool. This seems to go into ropes. It doesn't really mix together. So I just did 3 pulls of the caulking gun trigger. And then I'm going to use my fingers to just mix it around. Oh, this is cool. So we can see that. It feels really cool. This way is way more fun than the cornstarch one. The cornstarch was a little bit more high stress. For me. Because I don't like a mess. So you can see as you move it around, it starts to form and get a little bit more solid. And I think that that's the point of the soap, is that it helps it to kind of harden up a little bit without sticking to everything. And this one, you can see that my fingers are clean. With the cornstarch, it wasn't that way. With this one, it seems like I would have to do the food coloring afterwards if I'm going to do it. I'm going to knead this around a little bit until it starts to get to a consistency where I feel like it would be firm enough to put down on that sheet. Now, the thing that I'm putting this stuff down on to set is just a piece of cardboard, but I put a piece of wax paper over it because I'm really hoping to keep these molds, if possible, afterwards. Even if they just test ones, if they're usable, that would be still really cool. So I think that we're getting closer. You can see that it's kind of a solid little ball right here, but it's not quite there yet. It's still pretty sticky. Keep it in here in the soap where it doesn't stick. And it's not, you can't hold it above the water and do it because then it will stick to you, if you see. It's easiest to do it while it's in the water. I'm watching the clock here, guys. It's about 3 minutes now, 2 or 3 minutes. Seems like. That we've had to mix this. And it's starting to get to a consistency where I almost feel comfortable with putting it down. Maybe just a little bit more. It feels pretty slippery, and as you can see, it's not really sticking to me. Just knead it around a little bit more. You can see how much different. Well, that was fun. I liked that way. Doing it. Water's everywhere, but more fun for sure. So let's put these globs here. Oh, whoops, I wanted to do food coloring, I forgot. So let's do a couple drops of the green for that one. We'll see if it sticks in there. It looks like it's not sticking in there very well, so we'll see if you look close. Definitely going to be food coloring everywhere, so that's my bad. I could have done that when I first took it out. Alright, now it's a pretty green color. I like that a lot. Now let's get this stuff. That one there. Items in, and just so that you've got a good shot. It's just a seashell with the grooves. These being next to each other, they shouldn't stick to each other because it's silicone. And this is just a circle. but I like the depth of it. Again, because I like to do the jewelry. So we'll put that in. I want to make sure some in the middle. The nice thing about being able to do these custom molds is that you know what you look for in a mold and what you don't like. I'll let you see this one too. Sorry, now it's got some stuff on it, but it's just a little dragonfly. It's got some detail on it, so I wanted to see how well it would pick that up. Put that in there. And this key, just a little heart key. See how well it picks up the details there. And this one is just a little rock, but I liked the shape of it. Good for a small little pendant. It's funny that I used this big rock for the, if I could go back I'd do it differently, but done is done. We got that. I'm going to try to keep the tops as flat as possible because I make it easy for the Alright, so now I've got it all set here. And then we'll just see how they turn out. They have to set for about 24 hours. So we'll come back and we'll see what it's like after that time has gone by. Alright guys, we're back day 2 after 24 hours of letting these silicone molds sit. Let's see what they look like. So this first one is one that we use soap and water and silicone with. And it looks like the seashell came out pretty easy. And we've got flexibility, durability. It doesn't look like anything poked through the bottom, so that's good as far as pouring the resin goes. And I can see the texture inside for the grooves from the top of the seashell. So all in all, I think that one was a pretty good mold. I like that one. We'll keep that one. The second one, remember we used cornstarch and silicone on this one. This one, the shell pops out easy. The shell's not stained like the one with the soap and water. This one, I think the staining was more to do with the fact that we put the food coloring in after mixing everything. With this mold, it's durable, it's flexible, and the bottom is intact. It does have some chunks of the powder in it, the cornstarch. I don't know if you can see that very well, but I think that I used too much cornstarch when I was mixing this batch, and it may have caused it to dry up a little faster and have that cornstarch still stuck in there. One thing I did want to note also, earlier I had said that it wouldn't be a big deal if the two molds touched while they were sitting here, and that's actually not true. The molds did stick together, and I had to pull them apart, so that's worth mentioning. Put those there. This one is soap and water with the circle, and this one came out perfect. This came out with nothing on it. I like this because this part came out fully intact. There's no air bubbles or anything like that. So when I pour the resin in here, I can put the flowers around the edges and it'll be a perfect circle. It's really nice, flexible. Bottom's intact. This one was one I was worried about because I pressed it down pretty far. And it's durable. Success. Let's check the cornstarch and silicone one of that. This is a little harder to get out, but it did come out clean. And yeah, it looks pretty good. This came out pretty well too, no air bubbles. Again, on these ones though, I can see the cornstarch in it, and it doesn't really flake off. It almost peels off. But I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to be like that. So. This is the Dragonfly. This one was one I was excited to see because of the details on the Dragonfly. So it came out clean. And this one was a real shallow impression, but it did come out pretty well. And it's flexible, durable, and it definitely didn't go through the bottom because it barely went through the top. And all in all, it still turned out pretty well. The details from the wings and the tail are in there, and the eyeballs. Let's check cornstarch Dragonfly. Came out clean. The mold seems so much sturdier with the cornstarch. It's just, I don't like the powdery and how dry it is and the rough surface. These came out a lot smoother. And I like that it's shiny. These were a matte color. But the details are still there. Maybe a little less so on the eyes. You can see it's kind of rough around the edge right here, where it looks like there's a chunk. But it still came out pretty well. I would say, so far, I like the water and soap best. On the key, this one was one I was excited about too, because it's got a lot of detail. Keyhole and designs on it. And this came out pretty well. The design up here came out, and you can see the little keyhole. So when I go to pour resin in this, I think that it'll turn out pretty well. Let's try cornstarch key. Oh, came out pretty clean, nothing on it. There. And this one, the impression was more shallow. And of course, the mold itself looks real rough. Again, I think that's my fault. It's because we let it dry a little too long before I put the items into it. But all in all, it turned out pretty well. I can see the details all through it. This one, soap and water with the rock. This one isn't one I intended to use resin with. I intended to use this do, or I'm sorry, not just to use resin with, but to pour resin in and then use it for wire jewelry. So I think that this one's going to turn out pretty well. The impression was deep, and it gives me enough room to screw in the necklace holder. So it's flexible, nothing through the bottom, durable. I like it. Let's check this one. This one was one I was worried about. I should have really put the big rock into the soap and water because it was a bigger piece of silicone. But let's check it anyhow. I don't think this one's going to be a good one to do for resin because it didn't hold over here. The resin would just pour out. But then again, it might be something unique. So I'll try it out and we'll see what it looks like. It didn't go through the bottom like I thought it was going to, which is good. And of course it's pretty durable and flexible. So going forward, I don't think that I'll do the cornstarch molds again unless I need something bigger and maybe with not as much cornstarch next time. With these ones, I think that this was a pretty good success. I'm excited to use them. I'm going to post this video with the process for making these, and then I'll post a second video with the results from when I actually use the resin in them. And that way we can see if it can be used with the resin and if they do come out, if I have to use the release. So we'll just check it all out together. But if you like this video, go ahead and like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks for watching.